Just wanted to say hello. We got our Q and Ashley today, so we're just going to wait for some folks to join us here. It's a good day so far, good evening so far. Getting into the evening time. I'm sure that many of y'all have had a long day today, hopefully a good day. Some of you may be starting your day. So I'm sure we're all in different time levels, different spots in our day. So all good. Just hanging out here. George and myself and Buddy are hanging out. Yeah, we'll get him up later. Yeah, you'll definitely see Buddy later. So we're just talking. We'll be answering some questions today. Connecting. I'm glad that y'all are tuning in. On the Q&A, Ashley, we just talk, we connect. I think it gives a space and an outlet for everybody to connect and communicate. I think it also gives us an outlet to support one another. I think that it helps us to connect. I think it also helps us to feel connected and a part of something, and be able to get to know each other as well, because all of us are going through things, dealing with situations, and in these situations, so all of it is a growing and learning curve, but at the same time, it can be very stressful, and so it's nice to have other people around that, are dealing with stuff as well. So, Eldon, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. How are you doing tonight? Brenda, great to see you. How are you doing? It's going well. Good question. Everything's good. Work with many clients today, and it was all good. Things are good. And, we're doing our live Q and Ashley right now, so that'll be fun. And then after that, I'm going to pack up and actually don't have a client after this tonight, and I am going to go work out for the benefit of all. Right? For the benefit of all. Renee, great to see you. How are you doing? Thank you for tuning in. I love your smiley face on your message. Great to see you. Hope Shadow is doing well. Kylie, how are you doing? Good to see you. How are you doing? Thanks for tuning in. It means a lot that y'all are tuning in. Patricia, great to have you from England and the UK. Yes, glad to have you from the UK. Glad you are here. Thank you for tuning in. Kylie, I'm in the UK. Perfect. Great. I'm so glad that you're here in Wales. Thank you for tuning in. Good to have you here. We're here. Zen and me, how are you doing? Great to see you. How are you? It's a good night so far, right? So, John David, great to see you. How are you doing? Love you too, dear. Been a long time. I know that you're recovering as well, so hopefully your recovery is going well. We are all here for you. And I haven't seen you at the station for so long, since we're doing it from here now. It's been crazy. So let me know how you're doing. I hope you're feeling good. Kylie, that's early. It's late. It's later. It's early, right? It's later. It's early. It's what is it? 12:50 in the a.m. Michael, great to have you. How are you doing? Thanks for tuning in. It's great to see you. Glad that you're here. Eldon. Tough day. Second anniversary since wife's death. How many years does it take to feel comfort instead of pain? That's a great question. There's really no one size fits all on that. It just depends. It's we got to get over it. We got to mourn the death. We got to go through the acceptance. We got to go through the mourning process, the anger process, kind of come out the other side. It's not that easy of a task. It can be very painful, and we're all cheering for you. I know it's hard when you really care and love somebody, how hard it can be to have a loss. And I think a lot of times too, it's like, being able to, if you can get through the grief, and I think also the help of having a belief system that nothing's final is always good too, and the help of having a belief system that Yeah, I believe that, I mean, I don't want to go into all my beliefs today on the afterlife, but you might not want to hear them all. Maybe you do. But I believe that I believe in energy. I don't believe that we're dead and died and gone. And I believe that it's like that person's presence is still with you, and I think if you can foster some of that and maybe see some of the good times and really focus on that and focus on some of the things that you did and relish in that, maybe we can get over that hump. But there's no quick way about it. Most people, honestly, Eldon, they just sweep it under the rug. Okay, most people sweep it under the rug. They don't deal with it. They don't connect with it, and then one day it all hits them, right? Or they just keep playing the avoidance card all the time. And so I'm glad that you're not doing that.
That's worse, isn't it? Like kicking the can down.
Oh yeah, yeah, George, you're right. It's worse to not deal with it, because think about it. When we don't deal with the death of somebody, we don't mourn it. Eventually it creeps back in. And it creeps into everything we do because we can't compartmentalize, even though we think we can. And you're right. I mean, it's worse when we don't deal with it. It's worse. And so what you're doing is admirable. It's just going to take some time, but really kind of focusing on the positive. Try to see the times that you had. Really kind of seeing that silver lining, and maybe connecting with a higher power and a spirit, with your spirit, maybe some spirituality work and working on that to maybe see some of that silver lining. That it's not all gone might be helpful as well. Trying to think of any books that I would turn you on to. Let me think about that. Nothing comes to my mind right this second. John David, glad to be helpful. Glad to be here. We all care about you. Always have. Zen and me, everyone, great place to be. Glad you're here. You make it a great place. You definitely do. Rebecca, great to have you. Good to see you. Hope you are well. 50 years old and can't get past a very shitty childhood. Can you make memories stop? Oh, that's challenging. That's challenging. I was just working with a client earlier about some stuff, and we were doing some inner child work. Going back to a situation and trying to work through that, and it's very again, like I was saying about the grief, a lot of times we sweep this under the rug too, or it's easier not to deal with it. But if you have memories and that sort of thing, um, it's hard. One of the things that I find though that is that if you can connect back with your childlike state back in that time and be able to find love and support and be there to walk it through. Because remember, when we're children, we go through this pain and sadness. We don't have anybody to talk to. A lot of times, if you're in a toxic family dynamic, you're ridiculed or made fun of for having feelings. And so being able to connect with that inner child, and it depends on how shitty it was. It depends on how toxic it was, because sometimes you're gonna you might want to EMDR is helpful. Hypnosis can be helpful, but I've found that sometimes if it's not too scary of past experiences, kind of sitting and doing some breathing exercises and connecting and closing your eyes and connecting with that childhood state that you were in at that moment and that time, and being able to ask those questions. I also, how you were feeling, what do you need? Also, coloring and stuff, emotions from that point can be interesting. I know this sounds wild. You're like, okay, Ashley's telling us to get out the crayons and paper. But when we color our emotions and we connect with that anger or that sadness or whatever, we're able to draw it or color it out, can be very helpful too. Because remember, the childhood memories and the childhood situations that we have directly relate into our core wounds, right? Because our core wounds were created at that time, and then that spins out our core beliefs, right? And then those core beliefs could be anything from, feeling as though you're never going to find someone, feeling as though everybody's going to always abandon you, feeling, those types of things. Um, you know, um, People are going to abandon you. People are not going to be there for you. You're going to live on your own. All these, people don't love me, or I'm unlovable, or whatever that looks like. That all stems from, as you say, those shitty childhood memories. And that's something that we definitely have to get to. And it's not something, again, that we can sweep under the rug, because it directly relates to the core wounds. And the core wounds were actually created at that time. So Coloring can help connecting with that. Connecting with your childlike state. I've also found that being able to love ourselves at a high level and self care, but self care almost at a childlike state as well. Like being able to color or paint and working with that can be very helpful. And there's a lot more that I can go into for sure. Michael, I hate grieving. Yes, grieving is not a fun process. Unfortunately, it's the process, though, right? So it's like we can't skip one for the other, and it sucks. Renee, we're glad to have you. Buddy says hi. He's gonna be out here in a little while. So everybody, he's actually taking a nap right now, which is interesting. He was rolling around, and we're gonna let him take a nap for a second because he was getting cray cray. He was having some fun though. He was rolling around on the ground, going crazy. But now he's relaxing. But you'll see him in a little while. Doll, it's all about the meditation state. When you do a hobby and immerse yourself in it, you're almost meditating. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And so when we are doing things like, that's why yoga is effective, right? Because it's kind of like a meditation state. Like you're doing repetitive things faster and faster and faster. That's why if you really focus on driving and connect with driving and connect with being in the car and connecting being one with the car, that can be a meditative state. Doing painting, drawing, even that coloring. I know that a lot of y'all, I just saw a coloring book. Can't remember who did it. It was an email, one of the many thousands and thousands of emails I get in a day. And this one was about a coloring book. But anyway, it was a really cool coloring book. And it was cool because they had, it was very intense and very cool and, like flowers and all kinds of stuff. And so you could use lots of different colors and, you could use your colored pencils or colored pens. But that really does help to meditate, to really focus on being in the moment, to focus on the mindfulness, to be in that moment instead of like in the thinking mind. And then if you do have thoughts, taking a moment to write down those thoughts. I'm not telling you to push the thoughts out, but if you did have a piece of paper and a pen, like a journal next to you while you're doing that, and a thought really hits you, writing it down, getting it out of your mind, start working through those thoughts, and us looking at those thoughts and seeing what are the reoccurring thoughts. Because remember, the reoccurring thoughts go back to the core beliefs that go back to the core wounds. So very powerful stuff. It's just like if you were listening to a friend talk. And you know how when you can listen to a friend intensely talk, how great you can learn a lot about them, but sometimes we don't because we tune it out, right? But the same thing happens when we tune out our own thoughts. We don't really connect with them. And when we don't connect with our thoughts and see the connection of the thoughts and see the reoccurring thoughts, what happens? We don't really know where we are. And those thoughts are actually driving the ship, right? So it's almost like we've sat in the passenger seat. Our thoughts are driving the car, right? But we're not paying attention to what our thoughts are. So how do we know we're not going to run into something? You see what I'm saying? How do we know we're not going to get ourselves screwed over? And that's what's so interesting. But we don't listen to our own thoughts. We try to turn the music up, right? Turn the music up. Turn the TV up louder. Distractions, right? Video games, buying stuff on Amazon. I mean, retail therapy. All these things are distractions. We all know that well, right?
I really like that idea of drawing and having a journal beside you because your thoughts do kind of come in, but sometimes you either don't write it down or they're just kind of stuck in your head. And by distracting yourself with the coloring and then having the journal, I think that's really
That's a good idea, right? Cool. I wish I had you on mic, George.
Yeah.
Maybe you can grab a mic real quick. You want to grab that purple? Do you know where the other mic is? We gotta have other mics in here, right? Here we go. No? Is there one over there? Let's see if we can find it. There's gotta be more mics. More mics. Oh, it should be in that bag, right? There's gotta be one.
Yeah, I thought I saw one.
We're looking for a mic right now. Anybody else have an extra mic? We're needing a mic. Anybody have one? Okay, hold on. We're not totally out of it. Here we go.
Oh, sweet.
Perfect. Okay, I'll plug you in. You're just gonna have to get a little closer, probably. You want to grab it? Here we go. There. You might want to fit that in there. There you go. There you go. Boom, boom. Awesome. Okay. See if this will work. Let's see if we can all hear George. Okay, let's see if we can hear George.
Hello, test.
Can you?
Test,
I can't
test.
see anything. Well, I think here. Let's see. It looks like it's on.
Test, test.
Okay, try it again.
Test, test. Oh,
Could you hear him? Yeah.
cool. Hi,
Okay.
guys.
George is on with us. That's good. Yeah, I like the coloring idea and the. I like the coloring idea, and I also like the idea of writing down our thoughts too. Okay, Zen and me. What can you do to get out of the learning pessimistic mindset? Oh, okay. All I heard growing up into an optimistic mindset, knowing that good does happen. There we go. What can you do to get out of the learned pessimistic mindset? All I heard growing up into an optimistic mindset. Got it. Knowing that good does happen, that I am worthy, that prosperity is possible. That's a good question. So, first off, many of us were raised around a negative thought process, right? The way that we were raised, many of us had a negative mother or a negative father or just a negative atmosphere. And then trying to change that could be challenging because what? Because we're programmed into that reality, right? We're programmed into the reality that that's the way it is. And to some degree, the things that are like normalized to us become comfortable. And so we have to be able to be super aware of the fact that we're in a negative mindset. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when we do have a negative thought, we have to be so aware that we're going back into the programming of that negative reality. And I'm not over here saying everything is unicorns and rainbows, guys. Don't think that, okay? But at the same time, we can look at things one way or another, right? We can either look at something. Well, we can look at it three ways, right? We can look at it from a positive, a negative, or a neutral, right? And those are our options. So I think one of the best things, and I don't know what you think about this, but I think one of the best things is that we can actually look at it from a perspective of, okay, when we go into the negative thought process, or we do go into the fear, or we do go into the stress, where is that coming from? Is that coming from my true belief, or is that coming from the programming of my life?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like I'm trying to think. It is kind of powerful, right? Because if you grew up thinking something,
that one looks beat
okay.
Up. Hold on. Okay, guys, sorry about this. There we go. That's better.
Thank you. Yeah, like because it is pretty powerful. Like when you grow up with certain thoughts, negative, positive, and they really kind of follow you along life, and then it's up to you to decide: do I want to keep doing this negative thought process? Do I not? But
yeah, and I think, and it's also about catching that repetition, right? And it's catching the programming. What I've realized too is that it's kind of like when we catch the negativity, when we catch it, I always like to ask myself, what value does this bring into my life? Like catching it. It's almost like when someone's catching OCD rituals, right? You're realizing you're doing a ritual, like you're itching or looking at something, it's like, what, first off, in order to really take that down, and that's been going on for a very long time, we have to look at it and say, what does this provide to me by doing that? Because we can't just change our mindset from more of a pessimistic view to a positive view without connecting the mind and the heart and understanding why we're doing it. Because a lot of times people will just put platitudes and they'll just put these positive thoughts on top of other thoughts. And what I've realized is that if you can get to the thought process, like if you can start understanding those core beliefs that you have and start writing those down, basically court reportering your thoughts, we can begin to hedge that and understand where those thoughts are so that we can augment those by really seeing the truth. Because if those are still beneath us, if those are still underlining in our thoughts, we can't add perfume on the top, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you can't just cover it up with some perfumey stuff. It's still there.
Right.
You got to deal with it, kind of.
And we got to figure out what it is. You know, like that's the thing. So I think Zenemy, I think what I would do beginning is start recognizing your thoughts, but writing them down. We can't remember our thoughts. You remember, like, thoughts are like a grocery list, right? You go to the grocery. How many times do you not have a list and you miss out on many things that you need because you can't remember them all? It's the same thing as our thoughts in our head. We have to write them down, be able to look at them as they come and understand, okay, wait, that's a repetitive one. Where is that coming from? Because our core beliefs are normally based on black and white thinking and actually probably pessimistic viewpoints.
Yeah, I agree.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people, like, one example that came in my head was I've known some people that they're either dating, they're trying to date, and they just kind of, they themselves kind of sabotage the relationship because they're like, oh, well, no one's going to love me. Or, oh, no one's going to do it. Like, these thoughts that have been in their head for a while, and as a friend you want to help them and say, like, no, why are you thinking that? Like, I don't see you like that. But because it's been like a childhood thing,
right,
and very embedded, it's like
you can't change their mind. You know, and that's the thing, is that we can't, it's like self-love, right? It's like we can't take the place of self-love for someone else. Even though we can love them and care about them, if they don't unconditionally love themselves, they will never understand, one, why we love them, and two, it's never going to fill the void. Michael, personally, I always end up with women who have issues. God knows I've got my own dysfunctional family of origin, codependency, and definitely ACA issues. Hey, I get it. But see, the thing is that like I've talked about before, is that, you know, when people talk about mirroring and you go, well, wait a second, that person's not a mirror to me. It doesn't look, that's not like me. The thing that's being mirrored in these relationships, okay, it's not the way that you present yourself. It's not even the codependency. It's the issue that both people have underlying. So what I'm explaining is that, let's say, like, we both have the fear of abandonment. Okay, let's take that. Both the fear of abandonment, both people have it, but they show it completely different. Right? So the mirroring is the base fear. Okay, the way we show it is like a funhouse mirror. Like, what the hell is that? You know what I'm saying? But that's the thing. So we have to get into that codependency and understand what your fears are, because what you're bringing to you are other people with the same fears, but the way that they present that fear and the way that they deal with you is probably different. Like, you're probably giving till it hurts, and they're acting completely different. You're probably having to defend yourself and that sort of thing, but it's the same type of juxtaposition, you know? And I think that's something interesting that that we need to kind of look at, and that's what we bring to it. So if somebody has a fear of you know, of abandonment or whatever that core wound is, we both have it. But my fear, I might stay in the relationship even long after it's past its prime, the expiration date's on there, the milk stinks. Ugh. I might stay there, but the other person might run out first because they don't want to be the one that's left holding the bag. So they'd rather abandon you before you abandon them. You see what I'm saying? Totally two different ways of going at it. Same issue.
Wow.
So that's kind of the thought. Eldon, I have been a nurse for 30 years. 4 months after her death, COVID hit. Since I work ICU and ER, I put a lot of people in body bags. I think it's kind of stunted my grieving process. It does help to do wire sculpture because I got to relieve my frustration by pounding the hell out of the wire. Wow, you've seen a lot, Eldon, and yes, that's true. You're going through the deal of seeing other people die, going through that process, the stress level. We can't compartmentalize this. That's like when people go to war and people battle and all this stuff. You see this stuff. You can't unsee things and you can't unhear things. So each time you're dealing with someone that's dying from COVID and putting them in a body bag and doing this stuff, it's going to be very painful. And I agree, it's probably compounding on top of it, right? So it's like we got this pain and we got this grief, and then we have this other, and we see death and dying on a daily basis. We're going to have this compounded as well. I'd love to see some of your wire sculpture. If you can, load up some pictures. We'd all like to see some of that. So anytime that you can be creative, I think it's helpful.
Yeah. I really like whenever you find something, and like the best ones are when you lose track of time. Like, you're busy doing something, and you're like, whoa, 3 hours passed by.
Oh yeah.
And I think it ties into the whole meditative process, like someone on the chat said, about when you're really focused doing something, your mind's focused on that, so then you can later then see what intrusive thoughts are coming into your head, and then possibly write them down.
I like and I like the meditation, and I like the wire. I like the artwork.
Yeah.
Do you do any artwork?
Not lately, but I do like some digital.
That's cool.
Like artwork, maybe with photography or something. But
that's cool. Does that help you to really focus?
Honestly, one thing that really that focuses me, yeah, kind of Photoshop. Like sometimes I'll just get really into the project and I'll just keep editing and lose track of time. But
I like that. I do a lot of workout, so anytime I can, workout helps me to really focus. Doing a lot of cardio really helps me to focus. Eldon, well, I appreciate the solid advice. Thank you. We appreciate you.
And thank you for your service, Eldon.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for being there for other people. It's a big deal. Zinami, my father would always say, don't trust anyone. No way, no how, not even your mother. And if your mother tells you different, you better check that out too. See, and that's the trust issue. There you go. And then that starts, that starts creating the reality of not trusting other people. And then you begin to follow that. If you follow that, because your father, that's what I say about parents. Like some people say, well, I don't want to moan and groan about my parents. I don't want to talk crap about my parents. My parents have nothing to do with my who I am today. And it's like, well, that's BS. Okay, so we can all sit there. I don't want to talk about my parents. But, our parents do create our reality. I mean, think about it. When we were when we were just born, and if you had one parent there, or two parents there, or whatever, they were like gods, man. Okay, they're like the end-all, be-all. And what they say goes. And it's like the belief system. Yeah, sometimes you might have been like, I don't know if I agree with that. But see, that's the thing, is that we have to get over those trust issues and understand that this is what he created in his mind based on his situation. And then he put that on you. And it's hard to tell the mind and the heart and to connect that. But if we can step back and see and look at your father's background and start looking at what happened in his life that would facilitate him to create that reality. He obviously also sounds to me like he also maybe had an issue with trusting women as well. And definitely trusting your mom and trusting maybe anybody for that matter. But obviously, if you can go back to his history and look at where he's been burned, or look at his fear, or even look at how his grandfather or how his father taught him, could be a very powerful awakening to why he said what he did. Doll, how to heal from being so burned out. I can't even bring myself to talk to my friends or family. Just want to sleep. I miss talking to people, though. Work takes all of my time. You're going to have to get out there. You're going to have to open up. You're going to have to start spending time with family and friends. You're going to have to start picking up the phone. The more and more that you isolate, the more burned out you're going to be. Sorry to say. Isolation doesn't help anything. Isolation doesn't help depression. Isolation doesn't help fear. Isolation, all it does is isolate and makes us feel like our issues are even bigger than they are. So you're going to need to, even if it's painful, even if you hate it, I need you to start reaching out to family and friends and the people that you can connect closest to that are the easiest to talk to. Okay? Not the people you have to explain yourself to. Not any of the narcissistic type folks in your life. You know what I mean? It needs to be the easy breezy people that you can communicate with. You got to start it out. You need to reach out. You need to start. And then when you want to sleep, I know you're exhausted, but you need to do some self-care besides sleeping, walking around the block, eating eating foods that are healthy, and having a social outlet. Okay, this is your prescription for tonight. But you need to start. You know what I mean? It's just you got to start doing that, because if you can start opening up and connecting back with family and friends that can really understand you, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel more energized. It's going to be helpful for you. Let's see. Pat, how does an OCD person deal with a narcissistic person? Wow, that's an interesting question.
OCD person with a narcissistic.
Wow. Okay. Is this a parent? I don't know. This is an interesting question. How do you deal with it? It's tough. So if it's somebody that's, it's all about them, it can be very challenging. If they can upset you, and I'm not sure in what way are you dealing with OCD? Are you dealing with, what type of OCD? What kind of, are we dealing with compulsive acts? Are we dealing with the rituals? Are we dealing with more of needing to have things in its place? What kind of OCD? But also, it's like, how is the narcissist in your life? How are they creating havoc? How are they creating havoc? Are they creating doubt in your head? Are they creating fearful thoughts in your head? These are questions, are they trying to run your life? Are they trying, I'm saying? I'd be interested in more clarity.
He says it's a narcissist family, and he said ritual and thought.
Okay.
For the OCD, I think.
Okay. And then I'm assuming, the rituals of OCD come out when you're being antagonized or stressed from the family dynamic. It can be very hard because you're going to have to safeguard yourself, and I'm not sure if you're living with them or not. There would have to be a lot of boundaries. There has to be a lot of boundaries, and there also needs to be, you need to get in there and understand how are they triggering you? Because the only way we can stop certain triggers is by us understanding what triggers us, because we can't stop them from doing what they're doing.
Right.
We can't change somebody. Right? So it's like, how do we have to understand what's triggering us. We have to understand why we feel a certain way. We have to, because what's happening, I think, a lot of times with OCD, not all the time, but a lot of times we're trying to control a situation because we feel out of control, because the people around us are not making us feel comfortable or safe. We don't feel safe. So there's a lot of different reasons. One of the advice I do have, and I know it can be hard, is that if you are having to live in this environment, creating a plan to get out of this environment is very important. Because it can be really challenging, because also when you're dealing with somebody that's all about self, they normally don't see what you're going through at all, or even acknowledge the fact that you are going through anything. And so, Pat, another question would be, are you living in this dynamic with these folks? So that's a question. Let's see, Michael, my mother's picker was broken. My male role models were crap and very abusive. That's par for the course. See, that's the key, is that it all goes back to our upbringing. It all goes back to the family dynamic. So, yeah, your mother chose poorly, and then the role models that you had around you were men who were, toxic, abusive, maybe addictive, that kind of thing. Sonny, how can I attract the love of my life? I can't seem to meet a quality woman. One of the things is that we have to get right with ourselves. We have to understand our core beliefs and our core wounds. And once we get down to that and we understand what that is and excavate those, then usually what happens is that we bring to ourselves people that are at the same similar level of what we're dealing with. Because until we really do that, we're going to, like I was talking about earlier, that mirror, we're going to bring people that have the same fear as us, but they show it in a different way. Right? So, like, let's say that the codependent sticks around forever. The other person might put you down, make you feel bad. I'm saying you might have to be defending yourself on a constant basis. But, and also sometimes it takes time to find that right person, and it takes time. And if you've just come out of a toxic relationship and you're dealing with it, we also have to learn about what was in that toxic relationship. What do we need to learn from it? How do we understand that? How do we unpack all that and see how it directly relates to us? Because every relationship we're in is actually helpful for us, because it actually shines the light on us. You know what I'm saying? Even every argument, every trigger, every argument that someone's, like, anything that somebody starts with us and we get triggered, the trigger itself is stressful, but it's only as stressful as we see what it's about. If we're just triggered and we just go a million miles an hour, 0 to a million, just like, freaking out or crying or apologizing or running out, whatever it is. If we're not seeing the fact that, okay, wow, I was triggered by that, that was really wild. Now, why was I triggered by that? What is that telling me? What is that telling me that I need to work on? What is that telling me about myself?
Right.
So
is it kind of like staying calm? Like you feel the trigger happen and then you stay as calm as possible trying to figure out why you feel triggered? Is that kind of it?
Actually, it's pretty much like that. It's like we have to step back emotionally. So like it's like when you know that you're dealing with someone that's triggered you, it's a lot easier to know when you're going to be triggered by somebody, right? I mean, you don't want to try to effectively work on this as far as somebody that's never triggered you and something happens like totally out of the blue. But if you're dealing with a spouse or significant other that's constantly freaking triggering you, it's coming. You might not know what it is, but it's coming, right? So it's like that 1 out of every 7 things that they say is going to be a trigger, right? So the best thing, though, is instead of looking at it like, oh, God, what is she going to say? Or what is he going to say now? Instead, you kind of go into it, and each time you have a conversation, because this is like scientific, right? Each time you have, and you're kind of like, you're not looking forward to it, but you're like, where is my opportunity to be triggered? And then when you are triggered, instead of being like autopilot, angry, mad, screaming, yelling, running, crying, okay, whatever it looks like, packing a bag, whatever it is, instead of that, stepping back and just analyzing what is it about what they said or their tone or what they did that triggered me, and what is that trigger connecting with? What is that about? Because really, honestly, it's just excavating our truth.
And there's always going to be something inside of you that makes you the trigger, or else there wouldn't be a trigger, right?
Yeah, there's something within us that we believe, or some false belief, or some negative programming that is there that connects with what they're saying. Because otherwise, if we didn't have any connection to what they're saying, we would just like be like, whatever. Right. I mean, like, okay. I mean, like, okay. That's funny. I mean, or you just be like, you would just be done. You would be done. There's so many people that are in relationships that aren't done because they haven't realized their value yet. I mean, there's only so much beating down that you can take in a relationship until you finally go, I'm worth more than this, but you have to know you are. You can't just question that. Well, maybe I am. That's what happens is people move out and then they go, oh, I got to go back. I can't be alone. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, we got to look at this. And so I think that if you were to really look at your thoughts, Sonny, and really connect with where you are and some fears, I think we could really excavate that and find you someone that you would really be, that would be really great for you in your life. Doll, my boss scolded me that I should be fine working outside of work hours and even on weekends if necessary. I wish I could quit, but I need the job. I get it. You need the job, you need the money. That's life, and it sucks that you have to do that. There's got to be a way to create some sort of boundaries. It might be challenging because you don't want to lose your job. But I think there's a way of putting some sort of more powerful position out there. You kind of got to figure out what the boss is like. Is the boss are they more demanding, know-it-all, narcissistic? What's going on? We need to analyze that and get some more information on that boss. And I've not been compensated for overtime as well. That's not good. The fact that you're working overtime and not being compensated. And there's something's got to give or take, because right now, they're kind of getting the milk, and they're getting they're getting the milk for free. It's like the cow thing. It's like you can't. There's got to be some give and take. If I'm working after hours and I'm doing this, I have to be compensated for it, or I'm not working after hours. I wonder. I don't know what kind of company it is, or how small or big, but there's got to be some sort of financial compliance, some sort of HR compliance situation. And I don't want you to get in trouble at work. But I do think I'd step back. Also, look at what some of the other employees do. Are they being asked the same thing? Get some background analysis on this, so we can, because that's some more information that I would like to know before I give you advice on that, because I don't want to lead you down the wrong path. Renee, people most of my life growing up have filled me with negative thoughts, and it made me feel bad about myself. But now I feel good about myself because I don't buy into their negative vibes anymore. That's awesome. Important, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. And it's all about being able to recognize too how people use that to put other people down. They use things, they put other people down based on their own insecurities. What they don't know, what they don't understand, their own insecurities, their own problems. Looks like we're having a loss of
My thing's dying.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, so we're good.
So we're not losing, just making sure we're not losing the feed, guys. So no, I'm proud of you, by the way, Renee. Good work. Keep it up. Just keep it up. And anytime a negative thought comes in your mind from old school, just remember that's old programming. Try to catch that as soon as possible. Michael, yes, I like the idea of refocusing on your relationship with your higher power and yourself. We got to work on ourselves first. You know, it doesn't, otherwise it doesn't work. If we don't work on ourselves and do the inner work and do the work that we need to do and find ourselves and connect with ourselves and find that, find that unconditional love for ourselves. And it takes a while. That's why I wrote that the 10-day challenge to live your true life. And I did the 10-day challenge master class is all based on that. You know, it's all based on how to find yourself, how to connect with yourself, how to find that unconditional love. And it takes time. It's not an easy thing. Okay, I had to walk through this to be able to do it. If I hadn't done it, I couldn't tell you how to do it. Okay, but until I did it, there was always some sort of blank or issue in my life. There was always something that needed to be filled. And I remember when I finally got through this, it was like the last thing that I had to overcome at one point was there was a toxic relationship component, but there was also the retail therapy. There was all these other things that were going on to fill that void. And once I was able to figure that out, there was no void to fill anymore. And then the relationships that I got into and the relationship that I'm in now, it's not about them filling any void or making me solid. It's kind of like it's just two people hanging out, you know, and it's great. And it's like, you know, is it perfect? No relationship's perfect. But at the same point, it's good. It's a solid relationship. It's a positive relationship, but it's based on I don't need them to complete me and vice versa kind of thing. And so, yeah, I think once we deal with that, we can. And I think also, Michael, one of the other interesting things is the fact that we have a tendency of getting in relationships until we get in relationships with people that might even have more issues than we do, right? And so that takes center stage, you know? And so then we're trying to help that person or figure them out when in reality we just need to be focusing on ourselves. Eldon, with parenting, the reality is you don't know as a child when something is wrong or harmful until you're old enough to recognize harmful from helpful. That's so true. That's so true. That's why we have to go back to our inner child sometimes and do the inner work. You know, that's one of the big things. That's a big deal.
And like, this isn't a school topic that they teach you. This isn't like, it's crazy because it could impact your life so much.
It does. And there's not, you know, they don't talk about this. That's what's so crazy. Like, they don't talk about the big issues, the big things that actually are the things that impact our lives forever. Nobody goes in, and I'm working on something right now, and eventually we'll talk about it once it gets out there. But I'm working on a project right now to help younger kids see things in a different way and realize it's not their fault and start understanding what's really happening. Michael, you just nailed it for me. Thanks, Ashley. Hey, you're welcome. Glad you're here. Pat, good video today. Awesome. We're glad to have you, Pat. Josh, I finally made a live chat. We are glad you finally made a live chat. Woohoo!
Welcome.
He's a newcomer.
He made it.
I love that. We're glad to have you. Carrie, great to have you. How you doing? Michael, you got it. We'll see you next time. Have a good one. Let's see. Okay, Sarah. He's an online friend. I had a big crush on him since a long time before. It just seems that he's not interested at all. Like sometimes. What is that?
Sometimes does 3 with anything. I'm not sure.
Okay, I know so well. He has nothing to do. He shows his location, goes here and there. He stays late at night.
Snap score jumps a lot.
What's that? What's the snap score?
On Snapchat, the more pictures you send to other people, your snap score goes up.
What does that mean?
So she's saying like that he's sending pictures to other people. Not necessarily bad pictures, but just like messaging them. And
Oh, so is it just like he's all over, all out and about, and he's not communicating with you? And so there's like, is that what that's going on?
looks like
Oh, isn't that ghosting? And how do you deal with him for X when he's sending a message in the future? Oh, okay, ghosting. Okay, yeah. Ghosting sucks. And how do you deal with it? Oh, yeah. Well, so people a lot of times they ghost you and then they send a message in the future. You know what I've realized is that when someone has ghosted me enough, guess what? I don't have time.
yeah.
I don't have time to respond anymore. I always think it's interesting when the people come back for supply. And I've done it before where somebody has messaged me and I haven't heard from them in a long time, just a friend, and I go, oh, they send a long text and you respond back and you're like, it's great to hear from you. Crickets, nothing. Guess what? They got their supply. Is she still on the hook? Yeah, she's still there. See what I'm saying? But yeah. Yeah, that's what they do. I would avoid it. If somebody's doing that to me and they're ghosting and then they're resurfacing, the ghost and the resurface, yeah, no time for that. And I know it hurts and I know it's not good, but I realize that when somebody's doing that, what we're dealing with is someone looking for supply. And then also what we're dealing with is each time that we accept that reality, we're giving them supply and we're accepting them to do that to us. You could also, instead of just not responding, you can just say, hey, this is, I wish you the best of luck. This is not the way that I live my life and this is not the way that I communicate. And I wish you the best. I hope you have a good one. I mean, you can put a boundary down too. Boom. But at the same time, you're going to put a boundary down with somebody that's not healthy anyway, so they're not probably going to listen.
Who would have thought that replying to someone, like a longtime person, would be so, like, would mean so much? I would never have thought just replying to someone means I'm giving them supply. I'd be like, what? What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, you're giving them supply. There's some people out there that all they're wanting is your supply. They don't even really care about you. Because if they cared about you, they wouldn't go 4 months without texting you.
Right.
It's like they're at the lowest of low and they need somebody out there to convince them that they have value. And I know that sounds sad. And you're like, well, that's depressing. Boom. And you text them back and then they got no time. It's funny. If you don't text back and you don't respond back, see how often they keep texting you.
That'd be interesting.
Check that out. I've watched that myself. I mean, that's key. Renee, I love that book, The 10-Day Challenge. Woohoo!
Oh, nice.
We love you. We're glad you love the book, too. Appreciate it. Yes, Carrie, yes, should be classes on this at every grade level. I agree.
It's insane. I mean, we're talking about things that affect every thought you have in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's like not rose tinted glasses, but everything's tinted a certain way, depending on what you went through as a child, what your parents told you was valuable, what wasn't. Like all these different things, huh? I
agree. I mean, it's crazy, but we don't know all this stuff. And the thing is, our parents didn't teach us. And guess what? Their parents didn't teach them.
Right.
So how are we going to have the information if nobody teaches anybody? Stu, if a person is seeing a therapist, how do you know when you are well enough to go through life without help? What are the signs? Great one. You're comfortable. You're happy and comfortable in your own skin. You don't have a bunch of repeating thoughts. You're not anxious. You're not stressed. You are in comfort with your own self by yourself. You don't need to be with anybody. You like being with people, but it's not a big deal. You see through manipulation, gaslighting. You understand when you feel comfortable with other people. You understand you can connect with people, but you have boundaries. You're willing to let go of relationships that are toxic. There's a lot of stuff there. You have a deep sense of self. You care about yourself. And I'm not talking about making yourself narcissistic. You put yourself there and you know your value and you won't accept anything less.
Knowing your value for sure is a good one.
Yeah.
Knowing your value.
Because
once you got that, can't no one take that away.
Yeah, and it's not a narcissistic value, proposition. It's just a real deep understanding. Hey, I am a spiritual being walking this planet, and this is this is me valuable being, not doing, but being. Feel good, Generation X. Please, how can I have my daughter a part of my life if she's a narcissist? it is what it is. When you have to deal with that kind of situation, well, there's certain things that you're going to have to probably accept by having her around that you wouldn't accept from other people. I would have to have boundaries as well, though. But there's a tendency with folks like this that have signs and symptoms of MPD. They're not going to deal with boundaries very well, and they're going to try to jump over your boundaries at all costs. You're going to have to accept the fact that if she gives you the silent treatment, you're going to have to take the best you're going to have to try to figure out how to filter what you can filter and how much time you can actually spend with them. And then also really check in with your triggers. A lot of us have, parents and family members that have some of these issues, and we have to be able to, we have to ask ourselves honestly, we have to really ask ourselves, you have to be kind of transparent in the situation, and you have to be clear, and you also have to have boundaries. And I think you have to be able to connect with your emotions and be able to accept that reality and be able to voice how you feel too. I don't want you walking on eggshells just trying to keep somebody in your family dynamic. So that would be the first thing is, are you walking on eggshells around them, and what are you walking on eggshells about? Sarah, did I ask out of the topic? Oh no, I thought we really connected with your question about ghosting. I hope that we were able to connect with your question. We felt like it was about ghosting and then somebody coming back and trying to respond back to you. Let us know if we totally missed the point on that one. I thought we connected on that. Eldon, emotional vampires need your energy to survive. Without the positive or negative energy, they have nothing to feed on. Guard yourself from being drained of your emotional energy. That's so true. Feel Good Generation X, can you do a video on Narcissist? Children. Yes, I can. I can do that. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, that can be challenging. It can be very challenging. And it's hard because you love them and they're your kids. So that's the hardest thing. Yeah, I'll definitely do a video on that. What is that?
That's funny.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
What is that about?
Nothing. Just someone trying to be funny.
That's funny. I love it. Stu, wow, thank you. You're welcome. Glad you're here. Josh, do you think people have a hard time breaking a fantasy bond? Is it a trauma bond or fantasy bond? Very interested.
Fantasy bond.
A fantasy bond. Is it a fantasy bond based on trauma?
Makes you think like you're bonded based on a fantasy? I don't know.
Okay. Well, okay. Okay, so fantasy bond. Okay, so based on the fantasy of what could be, based on the fantasy of what you'd like. I mean, there are relationships out there that are like really on a fantasy, based in a fantasy. I get that. But again, we have to look at the relationship and understand what is the illusion? What is our self-deception? How are we deceiving ourselves? Okay. I think sometimes, a fantasy bond can be, used to kind of deal with, issues that we dealt with in childhood. Intimacy. I mean, the fantasy bond obviously is something that's, I think, is highly addictive. And so it can be very challenging.
I could see that.
I think it's very challenging. I mean, how addicted are you in this fantasy bond? Okay, hold on one second. It looks like you responded again. Oh, Eldon, great book, Establishing Boundaries. Thank you. Feel good. Thank you. You got it. Josh, fantasy bond with your initial parent and how we use psychological defenses learned. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's kind of like we have to realize what's really happening and look at the truth. And I think we have to acknowledge that the bond exists. we have to acknowledge that the bond exists, and I think we also have to be honest with our feelings. I think we also have to be aware of our vulnerability. Are you able to have honest communication? Is there honest communication in this relationship? How do you communicate? What's the communication? But I also think that, when we bond with people in that situation, um, we have to we have to try to spin that out and look at the truth in the relationship. We have to be mindful of that. I think we also have to look at our own independence in that relationship. There's a lot that's a long answer. I should probably do a video on that, Josh. That's a good idea. It's a really long answer. I like that. Let's get back to that. I definitely have a lot to say on that. Yeah, Sarah. Oh, good. You're repeating the video. The internet was bad. It slowed down. Okay, so now you're gonna. Okay, great. I'm glad that you connected with that. So I'm glad that we did not skip your question. M Cyber, how do you know who is narcissist in a relationship? Everyone have their point of view. Okay, yeah. I mean, everybody has their point of view. We don't want to sit there and use the narcissistic. We don't want to sit there and say everybody's an effing narcissist, right? I get it. I mean, but at the same time, how do you know? And I think that, I mean, if you just kind of looked at the signs of it, and understand people, I think everybody is somewhere on the spectrum to some degree that have some sort of pieces of it, but that self-importance, that entitlement is a big thing. The entitlement is a huge thing. I think, and we have a few more minutes left. I think being preoccupied in their own situation, feeling superior, monopolizing the conversation, expecting special treatment, taking advantage of other people, not recognizing other people's needs and feelings, I mean, all these things, insisting on knowing, being a know-it-all, being in charge, ruling, controlling. Everyone does have their point of view, but I think if you really look at something and you step back, even if it's a family member or spouse, and you really look at what it means to have narcissistic tendencies, if you see some of this stuff and it's triggering you, the entitlement piece triggers me sometimes, that I have to work on with folks sometimes. And I've really worked on that, but there's times where that entitlement piece it washes over you, right? Not recognizing other people's needs, not seeing that other people have needs, that can trigger you too. And so I think that if you kind of just look at, that in its totality and see, okay, how do I do that? How do I understand that? What is that person bringing to the table? What is triggering me? It can be very interesting. And that can be very helpful to look at. And I don't want to define everybody as a narcissist, but I think that if you're in a relationship where someone's not listening to you or allowing you to have your feelings, I mean, that's definitely demonstrative of having that situation. And I think that's important to analyze. And I think it's something to think about. And if you're feeling like you're being judged or controlled or not listened to, definitely another thing to think about as well. And then how do we overcome that? How do we deal with this? And if this is a marriage or parent dynamic, what do we deal with on that situation as well? Fantasy bond, Carrie, is that wishing for a relationship that will never fit our expectations? I guess so, but it's more like not a real connection. It could be not a real connection with like a child and a caregiver, a child and a parent. It's an illusion. It's the bond is an illusion, and it doesn't allow for real emotional contact. Idolization of parents is a big deal. Having that sense of grandiose, like a person being bigger than life, is a big deal. Yeah, I mean, fantasy bonds are very interesting. It's something if you're not equated with that or understand that, going and looking up some of that is very interesting, because it really is helpful to understand. And some of you may be dealing with that with the parent dynamic, growing up and that sort of thing. I think that if you have a fantasy bond with a partner, for example, there would be a major breakdown in communication. There wouldn't be like real deep communication. There wouldn't be as real affection. There would be a lot of routine lovemaking type thing, just like a routine thing, like if you were a child and a parent, how there would be like this routine, but it wouldn't really be like this love, but it would be the routine of being the parent and a parent and the child. There's a loss of independence in the situation. And using these routines to establish close bonds too is very interesting. So, things to think about for sure. Let's see, we have about a couple or more minutes left. We'll have 3 minutes left, so I will get to one more question, and then we're gonna bring Buddy on. Can't believe we've been on here for an hour.
I know, yeah. Time kind of flew by.
Eldon, thanks for making a tough day better by opening my thoughts to something bigger than myself. We're just glad to have you, Eldon.
That's awesome. I like that comment.
We're here. We can't wait to see your artwork too. OG1 Kenobi, my BPD has me blocked and is so angry at me when I did nothing wrong. I tried to reach out and it just makes her more mad. And I've been pushed away so many times, and then she reaches out again. Now that's the program. That's the program, right? When you stop reaching out, she's gonna reach back out. She's 48. I'm 36. She's in a program. Okay, she's in a loop. And that's how she does things. And that's how she'll do things until she actually gets some help on eliminating that and understanding why she does what she does. So in the process, when you reach out, she's going to avoid you. And if you don't reach out, she's going to come to you. And you got to figure out how much longer you can handle that. And at what point in time do we need to get some help? And she needs to also work on herself as well. And I know it's tough, but that's a program. That's a cycle pattern. And I think if you see it, this is not the first time this has happened. Sean, hey Ashley, I've been married to a narc and a BPD. I feel good about being a bachelor. I do miss being in a relationship, but don't want to find myself on another roller coaster. Totally agree. Any suggestions? Yeah, I mean, what I've realized is that we have to work through our stuff, and we have to get there, and we have to understand who we are, and working on ourselves and really finding our true self is so important. And it's working through those core wounds, it's working through that toxicity, it's working through that toxic family dynamic. Even if we have created this reality that our family was perfect, nothing was perfect. And so it's understanding. And a lot of times what happens is we bring to us those folks that also have the same stuff that we have, dealing just a different form of it. And so I would suggest trying to figure out, is there some core wounds, some stuff that needs to be worked on with you, really understanding that. And then going from there. Also, I think that once you get through that, creating solid boundaries and understanding how to create boundaries from our values are important. And also understanding of any codependent tendencies to stay in something when something is not working is also important. So there's a lot of things, and being able to see our value and realize, we don't have to accept this as a reality. So I think I would start with the self-work. I mean, really focusing on what it is that we want, who we are, and acknowledging our value and figuring out how to do that would be my first start, actually. And I can definitely help with that, Sean. And then I also have some resources for that as well. And I'm here for you. Carrie, thanks for your answers. Thanks for your answer. Interesting. I hope it was good. And JMP, glad to have you. How are you doing? And you're totally welcome, OG1. Let's get Buddy out. Say hi. He's like so sweet. He's like sleeping. Hi, little sleepy. He's sleepy boy.
Oh, there he is.
Hi.
Here comes that boy.
Oh, you're so heavy. Oh my goodness. Okay.
It's like I just woke up, Mommy.
Oh my God. Yeah, Buddy's here at the office. He's exhausted. He's been here for a while today. He got up here about 9 a.m. So about 8:45. So I'm just so glad. Such truth spoken here. Dr. Marnie, so glad to have you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just appreciate you coming in here today. Glad to see you. Glad to see that you're here. It means a lot. Sean, I hope that can help. And I do have some resources too. If you want to email me, it's just, it takes time and effort and us to focus and just to be able to bring that energy to us that we need and be able to connect with that energy. Okay, we got Mr. Yanni over here. But Carrie, so glad to have you as well. And I think, we'll definitely be doing these shows a bunch. Next week, I'm actually out of town. I'm having to go to I'm going to a funeral. It's a celebration of life, so I'll be out of town for that. And we'll be flying in on Thursday. But we will do another show probably maybe next week or the following week, but it might not come on a Thursday. So we'll figure that out, and we'll decide when that is. And so hopefully that'll be able to be good for everybody's schedule. Hopefully also too, if this time is working, this is great. If you have another idea for another time, or you think that it'd be better during the midday or whatever, let us know what you think, because we want to make sure. Usually I see clients though, so I'm trying to get it where it's not a client time, but we'll figure it out. So we want to make sure that we make it easier for everybody to be able to be a part of it. Yeah. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will definitely we will be answering more questions here on our next show. Oh, also don't forget, we have the radio show on Saturday at 1:00 Central, 2:00 Eastern, 11:00 Pacific. It'll be me solo on the show, which will be good. We'll be talking about, you know me. It's normally about relationships. I figure maybe we might go. I don't know. I haven't decided what we're going to talk about yet. Whoa!
Oh, what happened?
What happened?
I don't know. We've never done that before.
That was wild. Are you okay?
We're going to have to rewatch the live and see what happened.
Was there something outside? Okay. Well, we don't know what happened. Well, Buddy obviously has his idea of what he wants us to talk about. But yeah, so we'll figure out exactly what we're going to talk about and go from there. And I'm not really sure. If you have some ideas for the live show, let us know. I'll be putting the link that you can listen to. Well, actually, you can watch the live feed. You don't have to listen on the radio. So we'll be live on Saturday on all, I guess, on YouTube and on Facebook. I believe on LinkedIn as well. So if y'all have an idea for the show that you would like me to talk about, that would be awesome. We can go from there. NJMP, mindfulness changed my life. Love that. Renee, Midnight still has some breathing issues, but she jumps on the bed and is still playful. I'm glad to hear that. We all love our animals. We love our buddies. We love our pals. Stu, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Dr. Marnie, we appreciate you caring about us, and that's awesome. Dr. Marnie, thank you so much. Zenemy, thank you always. Ashley, we appreciate you being here as well. Renee, have a good night. We all appreciate you. George, you have a lasting thought for the show tonight?
I really like this show. I wasn't expecting to be on today, but I really liked it. I'll be around, but
yeah, this wasn't an expected thing, so we weren't actually expecting to, and this is great. So I mean, yeah,
it turned out good, I think.
Yeah,
and it was a good show, I think.
Yeah, I think you're awesome. George is a natural. Sarah, we're so glad that you tuned in. Thank you so much. Glad to have you. Want you here all the time whenever we're here. So Saturday, if y'all have an idea for the show, we'd love to hear it. I'm been a little late on the videos, on YouTube, the new videos, but we're gonna put one out here, and Ashley just needs to get to it. So we have it done. I just gotta publish it. I know it's just there's so many different layers of stuff, but we'll get to it.
There is a lot of stuff. I can attest to that.
There's a lot going on. Yeah. It's how they make the cookies. It's a lot of work. Sarah, thank you so much. Oh yay! Yay! Thank you. Shiba dog in a combat position. Buddy says hi. By the way, he says hi. He's just so sweet. He loves being on. He loves hanging out. He loves being on camera. He loves being like he's a natural.
I'm always amazed. It's like he knows he's being recorded, and he just stays there and does his thing.
I've never seen him bark like that before.
Yeah,
he doesn't really bark. Oh, I think Buddy might have burped. That's funny.
Oh,
maybe that's what it was.
Maybe
he's on a new medication now for his arthritis. Oh. God. Anyway, arthritis. I never thought I'd be saying that Buddy's dealing with arthritis. I know. So we're dealing with that. Megan, so glad to have you here. Love your YouTube videos. Thank you so much. We're working on putting some more up and trying to, put out more content. We have a bunch of videos in the queue that we haven't been able to I got to write the description, and I just, it's just take time. I got to do that. I want to make sure the description sounds right. I got somebody that's might be helping me start writing some descriptions for us because they know how much we're backed up on work. So we'll eventually get there, but we'll get there. We'll get there. But yeah, if you have ideas for shows for the radio show, let me know. I got some interesting folks coming on at the end of the month, and once we get closer to that, we'll talk about that. Some folks that specialize in BPD and MPD and all that good stuff, and we'll have some fun with that. And then understanding the differences and all that as well. And the biggest thing too, what I like to share at the end is that we can sit there and safeguard ourselves all we want and know all the signs and symptoms and all, but it all comes down to our gut and to our boundaries, and our boundaries come from our values. And as long as we stay true to that, even if we miss some of the signs of something, we still step up to our value, and we still make decisions not based on, oh my gosh, I hope I don't lose that person, but in the fact that I don't want to lose myself.
Ooh.
So I think that's powerful. Okay, guys, George, Buddy, and I are going to call it a night. Going to go work out. I want the best for y'all. Zen and me, so cute. I want the best for y'all. I want good things for you. I want happiness, and we're here as a support system for you. Just let us know if there's anything that we can do. Sarah, we appreciate your intelligence and the work you do, Ashley. Thank you so much, Sarah. That means so much to me. NJ, that means a lot to me. NJMP, hearts back to you. Carrie, overcoming codependence. That's a good one. Overcoming codependence is again working on the codependent tendency. I like that. Megan, good night. We care about you. Sarah, you're most welcome. We're just glad to have you here. Y'all have a great night. We love you. We care about you. And guess what? We'll see you next time. And we'll also see you on Saturday for the radio show. So we'll talk to you later. Take care. And I think he did maybe burp. Maybe that was a burp. Love y'all. Take care. Don't forget to live your true life. Bye, guys.
Bye.